If you're a high-functioning creative, chances are someone at some point told you that self-care is the answer to your burnout. But how often do you cover up exhaustion with face mask, a workout, or a quick getaway, telling yourself, it's enough, I've been there, and so have many of the creatives I've worked with. Here's the part that no one really wants to say out loud. Self-care alone won't save you. In today's episode, I'm going to share how I came to the realization that self-care is not enough and how you can step out of this endless cycle of managing your overwhelm on the surface. Welcome to Your Soulcare Podcast with Desiree Jamila. You won't find your answers in this podcast because I don't hold them. You do. Honestly, you have always known the way. This is simply your reminder to trust it. Many of us have been trained to fit into what everyone else is doing, but never how to stand in the clarity of our own knowing. I'm here to provoke the questions you've been avoiding and wake you up to the wisdom you've been overlooking. Because the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. If you're ready to transition from self-care to soul care, you're in the right space. Welcome to Your Soulcare Podcast. I'm Desiree Jamila, and this is an offering from my soul to yours. I've always been this high-achieving creative person, the one who executes a vision no matter the cost. Long hours, sleepless nights, pushing beyond my limits. Because if my name is on it, it had to be perfect. In the last episode, we talked about my journey in the entertainment industry and how, despite all of the lights and accolades and endless access to this so-called good life, I noticed one thing over and over. People still felt so empty. Success wasn't saving them. And eventually, it wasn't saving me either. So I began to take my self-care seriously, and I threw myself into it completely. Every ritual, every indulgence, every LA-themed and curated moment of wellness, I was there, and I embraced it fully. As a Taurus woman who appreciates all the aesthetics and comforts of life, believe me when I tell you, I was the queen of my self-care practice. Hot yoga multiple times a week, Thai massages, candlelit journaling sessions, warm spiritual baths at home, sound baths with a beautiful community. All of these curated routines, you name it, I was more than likely doing it. And for a while it worked until I realized that I was stuck in a loop of balancing burnout instead of breaking it. For a while, I thought I had the solution. I built systems to support me in my wellness, and I leaned into self-care to justify pushing myself into overdrive. In my mind, life was kind of like a scale. When work piled up on one side, I'd stack self-care on the other side to balance it out. Work hard, self-care even harder. That became my rhythm. That drive opened up doors to incredible opportunities, but it also kept leading me back to the same place over and over again. Work hard, burn out, self-care, decompress, unplug, and then do it all over again, week after week. It became routine, feeling drained and at zero, trying to find that balance all over again. Maybe you're familiar with the cycle. The feeling of doing just enough to manage overwhelm, but never actually enough to stop it. No matter how many face masks you do, no matter how many bubble baths you take, by Monday morning, it's like you never stop moving in the first place. This was the only cycle I knew, and I thought I was doing well for myself until one conversation I had allowed me to see the cycle I was in. The conversation. I was out with a friend at Monty's eating vegan burgers. Very LA, I know. And I remember she was asking me about my personal life, and I brushed it off like I always did. I'm good. It's just some emotional stuff. I don't really want to talk about it, but let's focus on you. She looked at me and said, "Well, what's wrong with emotions?" I shrugged it off. "They're just annoying. I don't want to deal with them." Then she hit me with something I'll never forget. "Girl, for someone who values self-care as much as you, if you're calling your emotions annoying, that doesn't sound like you're taking very good care of yourself. Isn't that a part of you too?" And in that moment, hearing those words, it clicked. I had been avoiding myself, avoiding my emotions, disregarding how I felt, suppressing my experience because it felt like an inconvenience. And that's not care at all. It's actually the opposite. I remember thinking to myself, she's right. What the hell have I been doing this whole time? My whole life, I thought I was doing right by myself, like a beautifully organized checklist. I was doing all of the things I was supposed to do. I thought that by putting my emotions on the back burner, I was protecting my peace. As I sat there at the table with tears rolling down my face, I was flooded with shock, angry at myself for ignoring my emotional needs, and disappointed for not seeing it sooner. As someone who prided myself with my wellness practice, with my intentionality, with life and showing up for me, this was really hard for me to grasp because my ego wanted to hold on so deeply to something so familiar. And I remember thinking to myself, if all of these years I wasn't aware that I was avoiding myself, how many of us are doing the same? Honestly, ask yourself, how often do I silence myself in the name of convenience? Am I comfortable with ignoring my feelings just for the sake of moving forward? I've been there too, but suddenly here I was coming to terms with the fact that I was failing in the self-care department. Without even realizing it, my self-care rituals I cherished so deeply, they were really more like self-avoidance rituals because I didn't know how to be emotionally honest with myself. And that's what shifted everything for me. This realization was simultaneously ego crushing, but also elevating. It felt like I was a character in the Matrix, and the universe was saying, "Desiree, you really thought you were doing something? Think again. Next level, unlocked." I was no longer operating in the luxury of blissful ignorance. I knew I had to make a shift, and I knew I had to do it in real time. So when my friend called me out, I found myself at this intersection of hyper self-awareness. If I stayed in these intense feelings, being hard on myself and adding guilt for not quote unquote self-caring the right way, I would just be doing the same thing, more harm to me. So there was nowhere to hide. I had two choices: keep adding guilt on top of burnout or try something radically different. So I chose compassion. I chose grace. I chose to respect my own feelings. And that's when I shifted from self-care into what I now call soul care. Soul care goes beyond the surface. It's about holding space for yourself and letting emotional honesty be the real medicine. Next episode, we'll go even deeper into the feels. But before we get there, let's rewind a minute. What even is self-care? When you pull up the definition of self-care, it says that it's the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, especially during times of stress. So, let me ask you, when you're stressed, what do you reach for? Food, Scrolling on TikTok or Instagram for funny animal videos? Pressing play on your favorite show or binge watching an entire series? Taking a walk, hitting the gym, meal prepping for the week, or reaching for whatever quick dopamine hit is closest? Here's the reality. 90% of self-care is soothing, not solving a damn thing. You can be doing all the things you think you need to be doing to take care of yourself and still not be required to be emotionally honest with yourself and feel your feelings. And that's why I say self-care is not enough. The very essence of self-care enables self-avoidance. Self-care doesn't require emotional honesty. It doesn't ask that you sit with your feelings, face your patterns, heal generational cycles, or process what's really going on underneath it all. But soul care does. Soul care is where you show up to process, not bypass. If you're being honest with you, is your self-care solving or simply soothing? Honestly, ask yourself, if self-care is soothing, not solving, what's your next move? Are you ready to go deeper into your mess, your mental, emotional, and spiritual space? In the next episode, we're going into what it actually looks like to go into your feelings instead of avoiding them. We're going into the feels. Don't just listen, question everything. This is Your Soulcare Podcast. If this episode resonated with you, subscribe and share it with a friend. Then check out the show notes when you're ready to go deeper. I'm Desiree Jamila, and this is an offering from my soul to yours.